Hey everybody, so we're going to come back for Game of Thrones review, Season 7, Episode 2. So the episode starts out with Cersei having a conversation with the Tyrell Bannermen, trying to get them to swing to her side. So she's stretching, she's trying to use the fact that if she wins, then, they're going to be on the wrong side. And she's trying to use that against them. Now the main leading person is Tully, and that's Sam's dad, and I don't foresee him abandoning his word. He's a jerk to Sam. He's very male chauvinist, which means his ego is number one, and his loyalty feeds his ego. So I don't foresee him swapping sides, even with Jaime and his ability to his charisma and trying to hint that he would make Tully, a king, or not a king, a leading general in the army. It's a possibility they might be able to get Tully to swap sides, but I don't foresee Tully's ego allowing that. Like, he'll die, because he gave his word to the Tyrells, similar to Ned. Tully himself, again, in the previous seasons, he's a jerk. He hates Sam. He can't stand Sam for all the reasons that he has, even though Sam's a decent human being, and he would probably make a good leader if he had enough support around him. From there, we swing into Daenerys having the meeting with the Dornish leaders, her side's leader of the Iron Isles, and then also House Tyrell, the leader of House Tyrell. And of course Tyrion's there. Now before all that happens, she does have a conversation in the beginning with Varys, I believe is the way you say his name. And she basically brings up his loyalty, and I really enjoy his speech to her. He grew up on the streets, he came from the poor area, his loyalty's to the people, and she accepted that, and she told him, if I'm ever not being good for the people, then to let me know, but to come to me face to face, don't go behind my back and try and have me killed, basically. And that's one of Varys' primary character qualities, is that he is for the people, and yeah, he seems shady, but it's because he's trying to protect the little people. He could care less about the game. He could care less about the people on the throne. It's all how those people better the lives of his people, especially because that's where he came from. He was never a lord, and he's still technically not a lord. He just is allowed to sit at this higher ranking table because of his ability to be such a good spy. So anyways, back to the conversation that Daenerys has with her council, and they're against her decision to not just go ahead and run over the Red Keep because they believe their armies are strong enough, and that may be true, but the worry is that, they don't know if Cersei has anything hiding, for the simple fact she just blew up an entire church, and there's a giant hole in the middle of King's Landing. So I don't know if that's... She's being cautious, and I think that's because she's following the advice of Tyrion. So then they lay out their plan. They're going to lay siege to the Red Keep and then sneak around and basically destroy the Lannisters' home base, Castle Larrock. And I think that's a little bit of Tyrion basically saying shove it to his family, so he's happy that that's going to happen. So I think he's pushed for that, maybe a little more so than he should have. I'm not sure if he's thinking as strategically as he should, but we'll see. Then it bounces back to, so then she dismisses everybody, and she has the conversation with the leader of House Tyrell, the older lady, and her motives are purely revenge. Her entire family was blown up, and she just wants revenge. She would be completely happy with seeing King's Landing completely destroyed, because she hates what Cersei did, and she hates Cersei, period. So her advice to Daenerys is basically, you're a dragon, be a dragon. You're not a sheep. All men are sheep, and they're just going to follow who they're told to follow. it's not necessarily true in this case. And I think that it's less of what Tyrell actually thinks versus she's just trying to manipulate Daenerys. And she understands that Daenerys can be manipulated because she has a little bit of an ego. She's smarter about what she gives into when it comes to her ego, but Daenerys still has an ego, and Tyrell realizes that. I mean, anybody with 3 dragons is going to have some kind of ego. It's just the way it is. You've got 3 giant, flame-breathing, flying, people-demolishing dragons. So after that, we bounce back. I believe it bounces back to Cersei, and then you see her walk in the halls. And I was really happy with this scene because it talks about it in the books, about the skulls under the Red Keep, that Baratheon had moved them. And it talks about how big the skulls are. So I'm happy they did this scene and they actually showed the skulls and how big they were. But then her maester basically shows her this contraption she has, which is just a giant javelin slinger, because he had heard about Drogo getting harmed in the slave pits. So now they think they have a weapon to kill the dragons, and he basically lets Cersei fire it. So I'm sure she'll have a few of those made and set up on the walls of the keep as fast as she can get those done. That would be her smartest decision. Even if it's not 4 dragons, the javelins are, you're talking, you hit one guy and it keeps going, you're going to take out 5 or 10 guys before that javelin stops. So even if you're not firing it at dragons, it's good against people, horses, and things like that. Then we bounce over to Melisandre coming to Dragonstone, and her basically letting her know what's going on in the north, and about the king in the north, and Jon Snow, and him having the army that he has. So that prompts Tyrden to advise Daenerys that she should reach out to Jon Snow. So of course they send a raven. Then we go and we see Sam and the older maester talking to Mormont about his ailment, which is the dragon scales, or the gray scales, what they call it, sorry. And Sam kind of prompts the maester, there are people that have been cured, and also the little girl, Baratheon's daughter, had it and she was cured, and the maester basically tells him there's a difference between adults and kids, and he's right. Her body has got a little bit of the higher immune system to fight that off on top of whatever they cured her with. Anyway, so then Sam basically, when he prompts the maester tells him, the guy who believes that Dragonstone cured it also died from dragon scale. So basically, trying to cure, he got infected and died from the same disease. But Sam anyways decides to sneak behind their back. He goes to Jorah Mormont, and basically it's like, I have this, I want to try it. Tries to liquor him up, gives him something to bite down on, and basically Sam's just cutting off the grayscale, just peeling it off his skin, and Mormont takes it like a man. It hurts, and you can tell it hurts with the simple fact that he doesn't pass out or freak out. He's got a little bit of hope, and he thinks Sam can bring that hope. So I'm curious to see where it goes. It didn't look like the scalpel that Sam was using was dragon glass, so I don't know if maybe once he gets it completely cut off, if Sam has dragon glass powder or something that he's going to feed to Jorah. So we'll see. Lovely little transition scene as he's stabbing into the grayscale, and then I realized that as soon as it kind of changed colors what it was, and you got the little pot pie the guy's eating, and I'm like, it was a little gross. It was funny, but I got the transition. That was a little nasty, though. Anyway, so we pop into Arya, and she's in an inn, and it looks like she's following these 2 guys. They're headed to King's Landing, and she's got her destination. She knows where she wants to go, and then Hot Pie sits down, and he's got the bread, and she takes it and eats, and they have a conversation, and wham bam, she finds out her brother's still alive, and he's the king in the north. He's running the north, so that changes her decision to go north, which is cool, because then she'll reunite with her family. Because at Jon and Sansa in Winterfell, now Arya's headed there. Bran is at the Night's Watch, so he could be headed to Winterfell as well. We don't know. We didn't really see him in this episode. So it's like, finally we're going to see some kind of reunion between them, more so than the very tension-driven one that we have between Jon and Sansa, which that's there for a reason. Anyway, so she heads north, she gets out in the woods, and as soon as it gets kind of spooky, I realized what was about to happen, because in the books, throughout this entire process, Arya has dreams, and because the books make the kids more, they all have that ability to share their thoughts and stuff with their direwolves, and even Jon's done it with Ghost. So I was excited because I knew what was about to happen. So then we basically see her wolf shows up with the pack that she's been leading. Arya's like, come with me, let's go north. And of course, the wolf still has abandonment issues, so there's no way it's going to hang out. It's not going to stick. It's got a pack now. It's got people it's got to protect. So basically, it lets her be and they leave. So it was a cool little, we got to see where her direwolf has been this whole time and what's been going on. But I think that may be the end of it. We won't see that anymore. So, and that, maybe that's also some kind of forewarning to Arya. You're your own wolf now. You're the leader of your pack. You don't have to go back to your family. Follow your road. Do what you need to do. So maybe she may decide not to go back to Winterfell. So we'll see what happens in the next episode or so. Then we've got the whole Jon and Sansa back and forth, how he's decided, or he thinks he should go talk to Daenerys. She says you shouldn't go because, yeah, Tyrion's a nice guy, he treated me well, but he's super smart, and, you've got the Mad King, and this is the Mad King's daughter, and you never know what she's going to do. So Sansa's completely against it. So then he also gets the Raven from Sam shortly thereafter, and he basically decides he's going. So he basically, in front of all of his men, he's like, I'm going, it's got to be done. And then it wasn't a surprise, he leaves Sansa in charge, which I think has been her play the whole time. She boosted to get him selected as the King in the North in the hopes that eventually he would award her some kind of leadership role. Like, that's been her play the whole time, I think. And she played the long game, and she did it well, because she knew eventually it was going to happen. And so instead of her coming in as the female, knowing that the Bannermen may not necessarily trust her or want her to lead, Jon's basically been like, this is who should lead while I'm gone. My worry, though, is she's going to take all the armies and march towards the Red Keep immediately, and she's just going to abandon Jon's plan, which is to protect the North and the Wall and the White Walkers from coming down. So that's a little unique. I don't necessarily know if that's what she's going to do, but I have a feeling that's where I personally think she's going to do, is she's going to muck up the plans and just follow her own sense of revenge. But we'll see. And then Jon and Littlefinger have their confrontation, which Littlefinger's not one of my favorite characters. He's trained Sansa as far as I think he can train her, and I think it's time for him to go. Somebody needs to off Littlefinger and be done with it, so that Sansa can do her thing and get in her right mind and lead where she thinks it should go, not necessarily on her and Littlefinger's revenge or ploys to become king and queen or whatever he's got going on. And then the whole episode wraps up with Theon and his sister and the Dornish, I can't think of her name now, they're headed back to Dorne to get Dorne's army so they can lay siege to the castle, and then they get attacked in the voyage there, and it's Euron, the king of the Iron Islands. By their laws, he is the king of the Iron Islands, and Theon and his sister have no claim to it. There's a very specific trial that they have to go through. So the coolest boarding of a boat I've ever seen is when that front of his boat just slams down on theirs and he's riding it down the whole time. And I mean, he just goes berserker crazy on the boat. I really like his character because he's just this tear him up, get it done kind of guy. And so I realized right then, everybody's like, well, is he going for Daenerys? Is he going to kill her dragons? No, he's going to get the person that killed Cersei's daughter. So that was pretty cool. That whole battle scene was cool. And then, it comes down to basically his sister's captured, and it's up to Theon to do something, and he punks out. And it's because he's still mentally gone. Like, he's a follower now. He's a pet. He's a servant. His sister makes the comment to, when he's told to get the wine or whatever, he's not your servant, he's my protector. He's not. He's nothing more than a butler. He can't be anything more than a butler, because once he gets put into a stressful situation, he completely punks out, and that's what it's been beaten into him over and over and over again by the Bolton. So it kind of expected him to do something. There was no way he was going to save her. I'm surprised she's still alive, though. I expected Euron just to kill her right there. I don't really know what his plans for her are. We'll see. But it's the ship that was pretty awesome. It was massive, and you've got fireballs flying everywhere. It was a really cool fight scene. Even though it was in the dark, it was still really well done. You could see everything, and it was awesome. The fight scene between the Vipers and Euron, which, who brings a whip to a battle, especially when you're fighting axes and swords? I mean, yeah, they're good if you're fighting somebody with just swords. You can get the sword out of their hand and stuff, but then you got to get in close to kill them, because the whip's not going to kill them unless you can get it around their neck and hold on to it till they choke to death. But I mean, basically, there you saw that Euron was a better fighter. So it was, like I said, it was a great fight scene. I loved it. Can't wait till next weekend. It's going to be an awesome episode, I think. We've got, 5 more episodes in this season, and then I think we're getting 6 episodes next year for season 8. So I'm kind of curious to how far this season's going to get. Is Daenerys ever going to leave Dragonstone, where she's at? But in all honesty, why would you? King's Landing has a big hole in the middle of it where they blew up the set. Why do all these people want the Iron Throne? Why does that have to be the center? Personally, I'd be like, look, Dragonstone's the new capital of Westeros. We're just going to burn the Red Keep down. If you're a peasant and want out, get out now. In 3 days, the dragons are going to wipe the place out. I don't see a point in going back to the Iron Throne. The throne sucks, for one. Who wants to sit on that piece of crap? Only crazy people. There's a giant hole in the middle of the city where she blew the Sept of Baelor out of the ground. Completely pointless to want that specific area. Go in, kill the people you need to kill, but hopefully they'll just abandon it, destroy it, give it to somebody, make it a refuge, and rebuild some of it for the poor people. But to me, it's kind of a pointless city. It doesn't look that fun. It looks like it sucks. And I'm sure Dragonstone probably doesn't have the ability to house a populace, but maybe that's a good thing. Anyways, I can't wait to see where the series goes. My theory is, and if I was writing it, the White Walkers would win. Basically, the White Walkers would just wipe everybody out, and that's the way it ends, and then they move on to some other country, some other place. But that would piss a lot of people off, and I'm kind of hoping that's the route it takes, because I'd like to see a lot of people get salty over the fact that he murders everybody and nobody wins. Who knows? Let me know what your theories are in the comments. Let me know what your hopes are for the season. Let me know what your thoughts of this episode and last episode were. Till tomorrow.